Welcome to the Healing Through Connection podcast of the JCA Counseling practice, where we spread hope, encouragement, and above all, provide accurate mental health education in a misinformation TikTok world. I'm your host, Erica Gregory. I'm a marriage and family therapist and the owner of JCAC. I know the impact of poor mental health on individuals, families, and our community. So I created JCAC and this podcast because I am passionate about starting conversations about mental health to reduce the stigma and increase the availability of mental health resources. So thank you for being a part of our conversation and being a part of the JCA community. It's been 5 years as we record this podcast since the two shutdowns. And in response, online counseling services have become really normalized. In turn, big corporate companies have created online counseling platforms. And so in this episode, we're going to discuss what quality online counseling looks like and the impact of diluted counseling services have on our field. Joining with me today are two online providers with JCA Counseling. First, joining me is Christy Colley, a licensed associate professional counselor who has over 17 years of counseling experience. She is an LGBTQ+ certified and EMDR trained therapist whose areas of specialty include anxiety, trauma processing, and life transitions. Also with me is Lindsay Wheeler, licensed professional counselor and supervisor with JCAC and has over 10 years of experience. She specializes in EMDR, Gottman couples therapy, mindfulness-based practices, and inner child work. Both of these ladies are very tenured counselors at JCAC, and they're the type where I wish I met them in a different way before this so they could potentially be my counselor. They're that good. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation.
Thank you, Erica and Lindsay. It's great to be here and chat with you both about this important topic.
Thanks, Erica. Thanks, Christy. It's so nice to be here today. Looking forward to talking about what we love.
Absolutely. Yes. I think we're all really passionate about this topic because the heart of JCAC and the heart of, I know both of you ladies, are quality care, and making sure our clients are getting a really great experience, that it has impact, that has change. So to start kind of unpacking this, let's start with the question, does online counseling even work?
Sure, so I can jump in there. I became an online counselor back in 2020. It was right before the pandemic set in, and funny enough, I wanted to move. I was living in Atlanta for a while, and I moved back home to Florida just to be closer to my friends and family and, our baked in heat that is just there all the time. So I was moving back home, and I had talked with some clients and said, hey, I'm going to go online if you want to continue. And then literally a month later, we moved down and the pandemic set in. So I started doing 100% online at that point. And I found that it's been so fantastic. I'll talk a little bit, I'm sure we all will talk a little bit about, goals and how they're met with clients over time. But I'm finding that, I'm getting results with my clients in the same manner. And my clients seem to love it too. So I'm a big believer in it. I love it. My clients love it. It's a great thing. It really is.
So as for me, I saw all of my clients in person at JCAC, and then I relocated to California due to my husband's job. So I was, a little unsure of how that transition would work because all of my clients were in person. They all transitioned with me and we haven't missed a beat. And then devil's advocate, I wondered, well, maybe it's working because I already had a relationship with these people. I already had rapport with them, but I have, gained new clients since I've moved, and same situation. So I was pleasantly surprised to really see that it wasn't any different. In fact, a lot of clients really appreciate the convenience of it.
Absolutely. I think you both have similar stories in that you were with us in person at JCAC, north of Atlanta and Alpharetta, and then you both moved for different reasons, Lindsay to Florida and Christy to California, and have stayed on with us, continuing to offer online services. So you've experienced both sides, clients transferring with you, you saw them in person, they moved to online, and it was really a seamless transition. You're able to still do the same work, but also you've started new clients online and kind of really experienced that difference. This really does work too. I was really wary of online counseling prior to the pandemic, prior to 2000, and I only did online services. And I, with everyone else, went exclusively online for a season as everything changed. And then I ended up staying online with most of my clients because of the convenience factor and because it worked. And so why spend an hour in traffic on either side, an hour with your counselor? That's a good chunk of your day when in my lunch break, I can just log on. And so all of my clients really appreciated it. I really appreciated being able to be home and be able to work from home in addition to coming to the office at times. And I was pleasantly surprised, I guess is what a good way of putting it. I was almost shocked of like, wow, I think it all boils down to the intention. Is the person on the other side of the screen really trying to connect with you and using like leaning in, eye contact, screens on, you can see them in good lighting. You're not moving around the room. You're staying still in one place. You're in a private place. So you're still able to really connect if both people are intentional about making that connection happen.
Spot on. And I think that kind of goes into the quality of the counselor as well. You speaking about that. We're here, we're dedicated, and we're really trying to help people. I mean, that's the base of our work and what we do. So I think that speaks volumes, us being there and feeling with others while they're in their own comfortable space.
So I know I've heard horror stories of the big box counseling sites or corporate counseling, whatever you want to call it, where, somebody is saying they're walking around and like they can see the background changing, the person's moving, they're not in one place, they're not sure if they're even in a private place, and just the impact of that. Like, I'm trying to be vulnerable, I'm trying to be open and share the things that are hardest for me to even open up about, and I'm uncertain if you're even hearing me. That's definitely going to make an impact versus sitting in a still place in a professional setting, clearly closed door. I'm tuned in. I'm looking at you. I'm following and tracking with what you're sharing with me. That's what counseling is. And that's what quality care is.
Yeah, those experiences I've heard similar, and it's really unfortunate because it can leave a bad taste in people's mouth about therapy, and they can conclude, oh, this wasn't a good experience for me, and so I don't want to even bother trying with another therapist. So that to me is the biggest. I mean, it's unfortunate that it happens in the first place, but to me, I think the bigger issue is that now you have all these people who potentially are throwing the baby out with the bathwater because of experiences like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that a lot too. And it just makes my skin crawl of you're going to give up on the potential of the hope and healing that counseling can provide because you had a bad experience, a genuinely bad experience, but it was that practitioner or it was the setup the practitioner was within that set them up to fail and to fail you ultimately. That to me, like some of these stories I'm hearing, that isn't even really counseling. That isn't what like our ethics are, what we're trained to do. It's like the complete polar opposite. So it's almost shocking of like, that's happening.
Yeah, it is sad because then it kind of it starts to ruin it for the counselors who are there, who are helping, who are, even when you are online, like I think of myself, I have a little bit more time for me, so I'm well rested and have extra time to do my self-care. It ruins for the counselors who really want to help and who are in there and ready to do it.
And I think that's ultimately the main impact of corporate taking over counseling or corporate creating these big counseling businesses. It's no longer about quality care. It's about quantity, where the expectations are you need to see 40 plus clients a week. Where with us, like we're seeing 15 on average a week, where we have time to think about what we talked about with you last week. We have time to consider how are we moving towards your goals? How do I need to like study or prepare for our next session? We have room and energy for that. Whereas if you're seeing 40 to 50 clients a week, it's more about just get it done, get it done, get it done. I mean, I can't imagine talking to your 10th client for the day or something. My goodness, like how can you be present talking for 10 hours straight? That doesn't feel possible. Doesn't feel realistic.
That's a recipe for burnout, in my opinion. I know that I've worked in places in the past that are, kind of bigger counseling facilities, and you're seeing so many clients, and by the end of the day, you're just squashed. Whereas now I'm able to actually put good time in. When I'm there for the hour with the client, I'm there fully. But yeah, I mean, just seeing like 6 to 8 clients a day that would make my head spin a little bit. That would be a lot for me. So the burnout really goes down, which is important. You want that quality.
Another thing that we haven't addressed that I think is really important is not every big box counseling website actually offers licensed clinicians, and that this might be another warning sign. Is this a licensed professional? Did they go to school? Did they graduate with this? Or is this a coach? Is this a certified listener? I don't even know what a certified listener is. I don't know what training they've received, but I know they didn't go to school for this. I know they're not licensed in this. I wonder, ladies, if you could speak a little to that, the importance of what we do to be ready to offer a quality service.
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of reflecting back about how long it takes to get licensed and my own personal journey with that, you're back in school with your practicum, your internship, and then you're out kind of in the wild and you're getting supervision for quite a long time. It feels like at some point it's like, okay, I have so much supervision now. And then we kind of continue that, I think, as time goes on. But it takes a lot for us to get licensed. I mean, there's a lot of time, dedication, effort, trainings, and ethical pieces that go on behind the scenes in order to become a licensed professional counselor. So there's not the same level of time, effort, and energy that goes into it, I think, when you are seeing a coach, which is something to kind of be mindful of when you do find someone to help you with whatever you're going through at the moment.
To my knowledge, there are some regulated terms of coach, but most are not. I can say right now, I am a nutritional coach, and no one could stop me from saying that or putting that on a business card and offering that, even though I've never done nutrition or learned about it. It's not a term that is regulated by any entity. Have they gotten training? How much training? What is their experience and know-how? Do they have ethical guidelines that they're following? So those are some really important things to think about when you're considering a coach versus a counselor.
Yeah, coach versus counselor to me is not even a question, really, because not only could you be a coach tomorrow, whoever's watching this, you could be a coach tomorrow. You could you could create a website and charge people whatever you want and say, I'm a divorce coach, I'm a life coach. There's no oversight. There's no governing body. We have American Counseling Association. We abide by their code of ethics. We have continuing education that to renew our license, we have to do a certain number of hours. We've got thousands of hours of directed work experience and hundreds of hours of internship over several years. And obviously the education piece. So it's not even a comparison, really, in my mind. I'm not to say that there aren't fantastic coaches out there. I'm sure there are. But as a field, right now it's the Wild West. It's completely unregulated. You're really taking your chances because, I would say if you are even considering a coach, do your due diligence and make sure that that person has education and training. But even still, they're not going to be governed by a board or any ethical organization, any professional organization.
You have no legway if like something doesn't go well or
right.
something that goes
You don't
wrong.
have recourse.
You don't have you've no recourse. That's the word I'm looking for of anyone to report that to. And so they can continue to do whatever behavior that was with future people. And there's no sense of stopping that or educating people. This is something to be wary of. I agree with you, Christy. I don't even think coaching counselors should be in the same category. But lately, there's been so much noise around coaches. We need to increase that awareness and insight that there is a very clear and distinct difference of the education, the background, the training. Lindsay, you're now a CPCS supervisor and you're leaning into counselors new into their career. And so really helping them, one, with what's your theory model? What's your population of choice? Who are you becoming as a counselor? And why are you becoming that as a counselor? These are some things that we spend hours, days, months, years processing. So we're very grounded. We're very secure in who I am as a counselor and how I'm going to be able to help you versus someone kind of like, hey, I took a weekend workshop last weekend. Let me see if I can help you, kind of a thing.
Yeah, just the time, effort, and energy that we put into it. I mean, I even see in my supervisees as well, they really care and they have the heart and they're doing all the things behind the scenes to make sure that whoever they're seeing, their clients are getting the best care that they can. I mean, and it's already hard enough being a human, so we want to make sure that we're making life a little better. I mean, it does make me a little sad to think a coach could jump in and maybe do more harm because life's hard and we want someone to help us make our choices and make them the best we can and guide us, kind of hold our hand, and not push us in a direction or whatnot. But yeah, I think that note is really important to think about.
Absolutely.
Another thing to consider if you do get counseling at one of those big box companies is that you can't really be sure that your protected health information, your PHI, will be protected and won't be data mined and sold to other companies. So that's a really important thing to consider.
This is very vulnerable information. Your typical doctor, everyday provider, you're protected under confidentiality. Your identity, your illness, your medical record under confidentiality. But we're also protected with a second layer of privacy, where even in how we write our notes, we consider what we include and what we don't include, just in case it is subpoenaed or something to that nature. And so them selling your data, like I think one of the big box counseling agencies was sued. The lawsuit won. They had to end up paying a lot of money. So this really happened. That's basically selling, like, these people were clients. These people had these issues. These people aligned with this to maybe for the Google ads and the social media ads and different things. This is like, people seeking counseling deserve better than that. This should be safe. I should be able to share.
And the other layer of that, I mean, on top of just having your personal protected health information out there in the world, that's bad enough, but the betrayal of trust, right? Like, of all people to literally sell you out should not be your therapist or the organization that you're seeking care from. Like, that's, to me, just insult to injury.
Absolutely. So that is a big red flag, something to be cautious of, of the difference between a local practice that is community owned and run by an individual versus a big box corporate. Corporate discovered that counseling is profitable, especially one of the things that came in 2020 was this shift in mindset of it's okay to ask for help. It's okay if you're struggling. That mental health counseling is something you can do and it can improve your life. So there was a big, huge push for that, which was beautiful. But in turn, I think what also happened is corporate America discovered, there's money in this. Let's take advantage of that. And what's come out of that are these big counseling businesses that they're not grounded in how can we help you. They're grounded in how can we make money off of you. And you can feel that on their website. You can feel that in the experience. You can feel that in the first session.
It exploits people, and we're doing exactly the opposite here. We're trying to help people grow and have a full life and feel comfortable in themselves and confident with who they are. And, if all of my information about me is going out in public and being sold to big companies, like, that's totally opposite of the goal, part of the goals. So it's just, I don't know, exploiting people like that is terrible in one way. And then when you wrap it in a mental health package, it's even worse, I think.
It's giving counseling a bad name. It's making people think that this is not an ethical field. This doesn't really work. This is not worth my time. When in fact, there are real clinicians out here, real practices that we're here to serve you. We're here to make a difference for you. And so it's like that push that happened before of like mental health forward. I think almost where we're coming back in a negative way, in a different direction, because so many people who went out to seek help are now getting that bad experience. And so now there's a negative, we're now moving into, I think, a negative shift. And so that's something to be aware of. And our regulatory boards, our licensing agencies, all of these are suing these big businesses because they're crossing so many ethical lines and legal lines that they shouldn't be. And so, I mean, you just Google the name of the practice and controversy and just see if something comes up. That'll be your tell of, is this one of those places that are trenched in all of these legal and ethical issues that your information isn't going to be safe. Your counselor isn't going to be supported in a way where they can provide you a quality service. So that's something to be aware of when you're in your search.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, because in 2020, like you said, when more therapy went online, it's like, when there's a market, right, to be exploited, there's going to be some big company that will already exist or will be created to come in and think, how can I profit the most off of this market? It's the complete opposite, of our ethos and what we're trying to do, which is actually help people. And so, it's really disappointing.
In general. Majority of us, we're here because we want to make a difference. There are their outliers, the fringe, but that it's
Yeah.
not a good representation of us as a field.
No, it doesn't. It's not.
Another piece of that is thinking about how many sessions that clients get and then outcomes that are expected of it. I know that there can be certain companies where it's like, okay, you only get 6 sessions, and if you're not making any progress, then, maybe you get one or two more. But if you're thinking about working through your trauma or any real deep rooted stuff that you have going on, it's a delicate process, and it certainly takes time to begin to trust your counselor first, feel comfortable in the room, begin to vocalize about really what's going on, and then do the healing. 6 sessions pushed in, feeling like I need to do everything at once, isn't conducive for the ability to really open up and work through all the stuff. I talk with my clients a lot about saying, like, I met you at X amount of years, whether it's a teen, and they're 15, or, someone who's older adult who's in their 60s, 70s, 80s, you've been doing life for X amount of years. I'm not going to be able to solve everything for you in one session or 1 hour. So that's another thought too, is thinking about how many sessions they're forcing in and how you feel constricted in that.
And that kind of brings up the insurance world too of counseling, where insurance may only approve 5 to 10 sessions. And that's where some of these theory models, solution focused, CBT, where it's like, let's put a Band-Aid on a few things really quick to feel like we made progress, where the deeper, more psychodynamic depth work comes in time. And the changes, don't let someone else tell you what you should and shouldn't have. Whether it's an insurance company, whether it's a big box counseling center, it should be determined by when you feel done and when you feel ready.
I can certainly speak on that a bit too. I've been on and off with counseling since I pretty much started like working and making money in my early 20s. I think I was like 21 when I first started out of school. And I really needed long-term help and care to really let go of a lot of the things that I have, gone through in my life. And it's not just like a regimented X amount of time feeling better type of thing. Now, even so, like even after having my baby and going through a little bit of postpartum, she's a little older now and we've worked through it, but I needed some there too. Or if something comes up in a relationship that I have in my life or a natural event, we all have stuff that happens. It's like sometimes we need to return and come back in. And it's not just like, okay, check, 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 done, I'm better. Healing is a process for sure, and life happens.
I like what you said, Lindsay, about, you're not going to be able to heal someone in one session. It just made me think back to the times where I would start with maybe a personal trainer and I'm like, hey, can I be buff in like 3 sessions? Like, how can we expedite
I want
this?
to run a marathon next week. Why can't we do that?
Like I've got a vacation coming up or a reunion or whatever. So we need to really and it's, they could be the greatest personal trainer in the world. It takes time, right? It takes time. The body takes time to, to grow and improve. The mind takes time. It's not something that can be rushed. And so you're right. Like if insurance or whatever is telling you, all right, well, you better meet all of your treatment goals in 6 sessions. Can you get some symptom reduction? Sure. But are you going to really be able to do the deeper work that's at the root of your struggles in 6 sessions? Probably not. So
it's almost like that's intake. That's our intake.
Exactly. But I always think of when I would go to a personal trainer, like, well, what if I work really, really hard? What if I am like the best? I'm going to eat clean. I'm going to get hydrate and sleep, and I'm going to do whatever you tell me. It's like, okay, you're going to make improvement. You're not going to be buff in a month. It's not going to happen.
They probably just look at you like, okay, sure.
They've heard it before. They're like, you're just like everybody else that comes in here and wants me to wave my magic wand, and you've just magically expedited all of this work that needs to be done. And it's, there aren't shortcuts, unfortunately. So
yeah. And real change, there are not shortcuts.
Right. And related to all of that is the therapeutic relationship, right? So research shows us that that's the most important factor in someone's healing process. And so with some of those big box companies, not only, sometimes you don't get to choose your own counselor, or even if you have, like, to both of your points. Even if you have a therapist that you like, is that therapist able to be present?
Yeah.
Physically able to be present with you, even if they have good intentions, even if they have, great experience and training and education. If they're seeing 8 clients a day, we're human, and that, it's just not a good, exactly. It's a recipe for burnout. And it's also a recipe for not having a good therapeutic relationship, because if the person is so exhausted, they can't connect with you, even if they want to. And even if they're capable normally, the circumstances really aren't conducive to a good therapeutic relationship.
So that sounds like a really good question to ask when you're exploring and trying to find the right counselor, because I know that can be a daunting process. And some of the big corporate places, like, we want to simplify that process. We want to make that more approachable. But in turn, they're also, on the other side, not offering that quality care by creating these expectations for counselors of that they have to see this many, or they, need to be able to do text message therapy or email-based texting type therapy rather than face-to-face verbal connection communication. So with approachability, there's certain questions I think you should be asking yourself when you're looking for a counselor, and certain warning signs I think you should be looking for when you're shopping around at different agencies. One of those is, how many clients a week are you seeing? I think that's a very fair question to ask anyone in a consult call. One, expecting a consult call. I want to connect with this person for 15 minutes to make sure they're the right fit. What, ladies, would you say makes you guys stand out? Like things that people should be looking for in looking for a quality practitioner online?
I think, you kind of hit the nail on the head there with the connection piece. When I talk with new client consults, I really get in there with them a little bit, even if I usually give 20 minutes, but sometimes it goes over because I usually block a little more time. But I just want to get to know, my client for what's going on in their life and really start to see if I'm going to be the right person to help them and if they're ready oftentimes, because I want to do the work. I want to have clients who are making positive changes, who come in to see me for, that reason. And so I think you're right about the connection piece. You can talk with, that's why JCA is so great, because the intake line, they can set you up with a console, and then you can call and talk with your counselor and make sure, like, yeah, this is the right person. Or, hey, you know what? Maybe we're kind of on a different wavelength, and that's cool, but let me try to talk with somebody else. Whereas like the big box, like you can't really do that. It's like you're pigeonholed. You jump in, you start to share all of your life, and then you're realizing like, oh, geez, my counselor is giving me advice the whole time. And now I'm making those moves and I'm stressed, which is just a bad example of what to do when you have a
I think
counselor.
it's a really good example of a warning sign. Like if your
Yeah,
counselor is like, do this, do that, you should kind of thing.
yeah,
Like to a certain degree, we need to advise and counsel, but that shouldn't be the whole process. There
yeah,
should be questions, unpacking, figuring out, what do you want? What do you need? Where is this coming from in you? What do you value? Why do you value it? So that they're walking alongside you, not saying, okay, by the way, you needed to go do this and change that. Or yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I've heard
That's
horror stories about that too. Couples coming into couples counseling, and after 10 minutes of sharing their situation, they're both committed to trying to make their marriage work. And the counselor's like, okay, so you should probably get a divorce. You should probably move in with your mom. It's like, wait, that really happened? And because they're asking me, like, are you going to do this to us?
oh,
It's like, oh, cow, no, let me explain my process to you. And I guess that's another thing, making sure the counselor can explain their process and why they use that process
yeah.
is a really key. Like they know what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah, I think evidence-based practices are really important, and I know we all subscribe to that. So that to me is really foundational in the modalities that I choose from, and I know everyone else at JCAC as well. The other thing when you are consulting with a potential counselor is it a fit? Is it a fit personality-wise? Is it a fit? Do you click with this person? I mean, there's that X factor where you need to feel comfortable with this person, even if they have all the experience and education and training.
Yeah.
If you don't feel comfortable with them, if you don't get a feeling of warmth or compassion or sincerity, it's like might not be a good fit. Also, when I do consults with clients, I know they're screening me, but I'm also screening them for goodness of fit. I want to make sure that this client is within my scope of practice. So for example, If I have a potential client who is struggling with a present day eating disorder, that's a specialized area that I don't work in personally. So I will help them find the right fit, even if it's not me. So that would be a red flag to me, would be a therapist like, oh, I'll work with anybody. You kind of want to find somebody who specializes in the issues that you're facing.
I think a nice thing that JCA also does is like the intake line. We know who's on the line. They're counselors who are doing counseling, and they know all the therapists and counselors at JCA. So when they have someone call in, they're thinking, okay, yeah, absolutely, Christy's the right person for them because she works with XYZ, and I know her personality would mesh well with this person's coming in with. So that's a really cool thing, to where it's like you're going to be matched correctly.
And then also kind of the grounding of values. What's the values of the practice? Because also in our intake line, we train the counselors who answer it. One, they're counselors. So they're already like warmth and listening, and you're going to have that kind of therapeutic experience in just the intake call. But also we're training them to match with whoever the best fit for the client is, even if it's not with us. So it's not about like, okay, bring them in, get them with us, get them signed up on some kind of recurring payment or something. It's okay, you're looking for a male who offers this, and that might not be within our practice, but I know who does, maybe in our same complex, or who does one city over. And, we know them pretty well. We've networked, we created a network in our community of other counselors who offer really great quality services as well. So we know who to send you if we're not the right fit. So it's that kind of our service to the community of, we're going to help you figure out what you need, because it might not even be counseling. You may be looking for a psychological evaluation, or you might be looking for psychiatric services. And so we're going to explain the difference between what we offer and what they offer. And, maybe then again, providing some really great names of practitioners who will offer a really high quality service. And so it's like that kind of education piece too, is what we do on our intake line. And so when you're looking at websites, like what's the values? What feeling do you get based on the information they're sharing? And does it feel salesy? Does it feel pushy? Click here, click here, click here. Or does it feel like they're taking the time to demonstrate some good information, to connect you with some resources, to explain what we offer and how we offer it, so that you can like, this does feel right for me, or what, this maybe isn't the right fit. You can almost get a sense and essence from even the website itself, or the blogs they've written, or the videos they're creating, that kind of thing. I just also want to highlight, like, as I've been sharing, as you guys have been sharing, that I'm hearing the mm-hms, seeing your head nods. Like, I can feel you guys with me as I'm sharing, you're probably hopefully feeling that same way with me, of like, that's attunement. That's the counseling skills that a quality provider is going to offer you. So even now, I think we're giving that to each other. And I just wanted to highlight that.
Can't help it. Yes. The little voice tone thing. It's just there. I can't help it,
To start with another question, how does real change happen in therapy? And does it matter if you're online or in person for that change to occur?
I think real change happens when I hear my clients saying that the outcomes are different. When we start to look at how they're changing, and hey, I came in and I was having panic attacks, or my trauma was so big that I couldn't focus, and I've got so much anxiety, or my depression was so big that I couldn't get out of bed. And then through time, you're saying like, yeah, it was no problem to get out of the house and do the things today and talk with who I needed to talk with. And I've been going and doing this thing that I'm interested in. And, if it's couples, like we're communicating better, you just start to see the symptoms lifting. I think that's like a hallmark part for me when I'm working with clients. And then also too, I do, check-ins with like manual check-ins or whatnot. But I think for me, that's like a big piece. And that was something I was super skeptical about when I started doing online counseling. I was like, all right, well, I love doing this, but if it's not going to translate, I don't want to do it, because like, what am I doing then? But I've seen that, the outcomes are also still happening, which is so cool. And that's something that I love about just like jumping online, seeing my client, and they're changing. I mean, I guess to simply put it. And one other thought too, I think it kind of goes into, I've been doing online now for 5 years, and I've had a lot of new clients through that time. It wasn't just like I took my caseload online and I've been doing it for 6 months or something. And I've had excellent outcomes with clients. So I think that that's another piece is like it's still continued to work even though I'm meeting people online and they get to know me and I'm getting to know them and all of their stuff. Yeah, translates well.
And research proves that, right? There has been a lot of research on this very question. Is online therapy effective, especially in the last 5 years since it's become more common? And research bears that out, exactly what we're all seeing. So yeah, so in addition to the symptoms improving, also functioning, like Lindsay was alluding to that as well, your day-to-day, so not only are clients' symptoms getting better, and they're getting relief from that, but they're functioning better. Their relationships are better. They're excited about their life again. They're, trying that thing they've always thought about doing. And so it's really, and I know you all can relate to this, it's by far the best part of our job is to witness that. And really it's an honor to be able to be a part of people's healing journey in their lives. And I know we all take it very seriously, and it is really an honor and a pleasure to do this work. And another thing, I specialize in trauma. So for me, with trauma survivors, one thing that I love to see is it's almost a moment where they start to be able to trust other people in the world. And that's such a beautiful thing. And a lot of times, if you've experienced trauma, a lot of times it has been because of other people, right? And so if other people have been the cause of your trauma, it's counterintuitive to think that they can also be curative, right? And so when you're able to learn when you have a healthy relationship with boundaries and respect and all of the things that are necessary for a good relationship, and then that generalizes out into their day-to-day life and they form trusting bonds with other people again, or maybe for the first time, it's just really beautiful.
Beautifully put.
That is really
Christy.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Christy. Yeah. I'll speak from the other side of the couch. I see my own counselor who is online, and I do online sessions. And I've never met her in person at this point, even though she's in Alpharetta and I work in Alpharetta. Just timeline wise, I have to do online to make it convenient. And I feel like she really knows me. I feel really seen. And I've walked away from most every session with a sense of, yeah, I got something out of that. Or, man, she asked me that question that made me think or process or dive into. I needed to think about that, or I can't wait to journal about more. That it stirred up some things and it helped organize and put to bed some things. So the depth of work, I don't think online or in person impacts the depth of work that could happen on either. I think it's the provider guiding and helping, one, creating the safe place, the relationship, and then guiding the counseling in a direction that makes you really feel like we're making progress here. I do want to highlight, though, there is a difference, and maybe we can speak to this a little bit, between verbal counseling. We're talking either on the phone, we're seeing each other on a screen, or able to hear each other's voices, versus text and email or messaging type counseling, because that's also becoming a trend in our field. And so speaking to that a little bit and just the difference, because I do think there is a difference between verbal communication and written communication.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, I wouldn't want to talk about all sorts of things that are going on in life over text, how much can be missed in that, just from like subtle different pieces with facial expressions, or I don't even know, like the way your tone of your voice is and everything. I mean, all those are important cues. Man, if someone's texting me I always say, like, if you need to talk about things, like, give me a call or send me an email and let me know, and then we'll set up a session or even like jump on the phone. But yeah, texting just sounds like a bad idea, especially with like trauma. I couldn't imagine trying to unpack anything like that on a text.
I agree. You're losing tone of voice, you're losing body language. There's so much concern I have with it. And then not to mention privacy, right? Like, who can get their hands on that data? And now, I have older kids, but when they were younger, I would teach them, anything you're typing on any platform is potentially public and permanent. So you need to think about anything you're typing. So for me, like as a client, if I was your client, I personally would not feel comfortable with that at all. And the other thing, as far as, like Lindsay, you were saying with trauma, I mean, again, I'll keep going back to this, but the relationship, the therapeutic relationship, I mean, it would be very difficult to establish a therapeutic relationship with words on a screen. I really don't know how that could even happen, honestly.
I think the other side of it is I feel nervous about sharing this verbally with somebody because I've been hurt by somebody. But at the same time, like you were just sharing, Christy, that's part of the healing process of someone being with you, seeing you, hearing you, and caring. That's how our brain reorganizes, reintegrates the trauma of, wait, I'm sharing this in a safe place that is making me feel heard and seen rather than this is terrible again, this is scary again. And so texting or written communication can keep people stuck because they're not facing that next step. They're not saying it aloud. I think research says if you say something out loud, it loses 80% of its power. I don't know if texting has that same impact. It's almost like you're hiding behind a screen rather than fully exposed, like, here I am and here's what I'm going through. And even just doing that is healing in itself. And so it's like you're taking away that layer that's so foundational to change happening.
And not to mention the possibility of miscommunication, right? So even in general, when I'm talking to my clients about, their day-to-day life, is, I generally don't think it's a great idea to have, a very in-depth, personal, heated discussion with a friend or a partner or a colleague via text because of this. It's just ripe for miscommunication. So I think text is great for, I'm on my way, I'm running late, what do you want for dinner? Sure. But deep personal conversations in general, let alone in therapy, I think they're better where you can see the face and hear the tone of voice and have all those other sources of information to communicate better.
We're on the same page. I say that too. Sending a text about how you're feeling or what's going on in your life or maybe hurt or anything like that is not going to translate the same way as it will if you're in front of the person and really talking. I mean, phone can help, but even just seeing people and seeing what's going on, it helps to connect us. I mean, when I work with my couples, I literally tell them, I go like this a lot, which means they start to realize like, okay, that means I really need to turn back this way because I want them to look at each other and connect and see each other's eyes. And even sometimes when they're comfortable enough, like holding hands and having physical touch with each other. But oftentimes I'm saying, look in each other's eyes, because when we meet eyes with others, it just, I don't know, it connects us. It's like they're windows to the soul in a way or something. But yeah, I think it's so much better to connect in person and see all that's happening.
Even the body language of a couple walking in and how they sit on the couch, or if they're sitting on their own couch at home with the screen in front of it, like, are they both kind of leaned away, like as far away from each other as possible and both in the screen? Or are they like sitting on each other and leaning on each other as they're talking? That says 1,000 words of kind of where are they at right now? What's going on right now? Have they had a fight? Did they have a fight yesterday? I can tell something's going on. Like those context clues are so important. Or if someone's like, let's say the wife is talking and their partner is like starting to pull away, or like their facial expressions changing, like, oh, something about what they're saying is affecting the other. Okay, that's information. Let's slow this down. Let's figure out what's being said. All of that is lost in a text.
Yeah.
Even though it may feel more approachable to shoot a text, it's not the same impact of change. You're not going to get the same movement. And then there's also instant, like I can text at any time I'm feeling anything. So then when do you have to use your skills? When do you have to regulate what? Almost then the counselor almost is a crutch. Like anytime I feel something I don't like, I'm going to text you.
Yeah. And it kind of creates the environment to do the hard work. I mean, I think that's why even going back to talking about our screening calls, like I want to make sure that my clients are there because they want to get better, not just kind of stay where they're at or whatnot. And I can be there. I always say I take you wherever you're at, but at the same time, if you're able to make movements and do the hard work, be around the person who you're struggling to have that conversation with, it's so impactful.
And To your point earlier, or the question of does online counseling work? I put my money where my mouth is. I sought therapy online. I chose online myself. I was had a trauma, and I chose an online therapist. I chose an online therapist who does EMDR, which is, what I am trained in. So, I believe in it, obviously, or I wouldn't have chosen that modality and that platform for myself. And it did help. So it's really nice. It's nice to have my life back after that.
I'll echo that. I'm seeing an EMDRist as well, and it is such a beautiful process. It is open doors I didn't even know. I went in with, I need to process this and the impact it's making. And then it started opening other doors of things I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Oh yeah, that's a thing too. And then, man, just the sense of peace and sense of self-control. Like, I know I can handle it. If something comes up that's going to be hard, that would be super triggering before, I've got this. I'm okay. And just that sense of, I love that. It's so empowering.
It really is.
Looking at
Those
the
neural
roots.
networks. Sorry, go ahead.
Looking at the roots and not being afraid to go deeper, or your counselor being afraid to go deeper. I'm not going to knock CBT, but we could CBT all day long. And I always say, like, I want to get down in there and see really what's happening. Because when we do that hard work, like you were speaking on with the EMDR, sometimes we're pulling things out of the box that are really old. And so when we can do that and look at the roots and speak about it, and also the autonomy piece of it, you process by yourself as well in your own mind, you really start to heal. Whereas when we're staying on the surface, sometimes the same symptom just stays around, and it's a symptom for a reason. We're not making actual change and putting the right foot in front of the other. So I appreciate you kind of noting about going deeper and having counselors that are going deeper, and a therapist who can do harder work and sit with it. Like, it's cool if you have that stuff, and that's okay, and we can work through it, and you will heal.
The generational piece we didn't mention before, but that's a huge piece of this, and especially with trauma work, but really any type of therapy, everyone's heard of the term generational trauma, right? So if you're a cycle breaker and you're healing that generational trauma, you're not passing that down to your children or your people in your life. Even if you don't have children, your partners, your friends, whomever, it's really that ripple effect, that positive ripple effect that I see and hear from clients is also really beautiful. And I think that's a benefit of therapy that is not often discussed. We often focus just on the client themselves and not so much on the positive impacts and that ripple effect that it has on
everyone else
people in their
around you.
lives. And it's really cool to have clients come in and say, my partner noticed that I can regulate myself quicker, much quicker than before, or my mood is better. When they hear feedback from their friends and their family members and their colleagues, it's really cool for them and for us, because it's like, wow, it's like other people are noticing. And, I'm a more present parent. I'm a calmer parent. I can, I don't lose my temper as quickly, or whatever the case may be. So there's all these kind of benefits that trickle down that I think we don't even discuss very often in the field, but they're really important.
And to kind of succinct and summarize everything we've shared to date of like warning signs to run, warning signs that this is a good fit. Let's organize those real quick if we can. So a text message or only messaging type therapy, run. It's not going to be the experience I think you're hoping for.
Yeah.
If there is no consult call, can you talk to this person for no cost? So it's going to add up. If you're doing a full session with a counselor, that's going to add up to try to 5 different counselors to find the right fit. So consult calls are so key in being able to economically find the right counselor for you. It almost feels in person, even though it's online. You feel the same level of connection with that person as if potentially, it's obviously not 100% the same, but that same feeling of seen, heard, understood, as if you potentially could have gotten in person. On average, counselors at JCAC stay anywhere between 3 to 5 years with us. And so you're going to be able to sit with your counselor long term. And even if they do transition to something else, you can potentially transition with them, wherein Can you do that with the other agencies you're looking at? Will they be around after 5 sessions, or will you have to start all over with a new counselor? Those are fair questions to ask in the beginning, and you should be interviewing you should see that first conversation as an interview, not so much of like, okay, I'm going to open it all up. Tell me a little more about your process. Tell me, how many clients a week do you see? How many of your clients do you see that are like me? Whether it's play therapy, whether it's a trauma, or whether it's eating disorder, what population, how often do you see a population like me? Are you learning on me? Those are good questions to ask. Okay, so let's shift to why we love what we do and why we love offering online services, and ultimately the benefit that in 2020, everything changed. We were forced online for a season, and we were able to really experience how productive and good online could be. Let's sit for a second with just what are the benefits of doing online versus in person? Like, what do we have to offer that we wouldn't have been able to if we were stuck in an office?
The convenience factor, I think, is the most important benefit for people that I've seen. It's really nice. Maybe somebody's car is on the fritz, or they have a little bit of a sore throat. They're not sick, but they're kind of on the fence, or their child is sick and sleeping in another room and they can't leave them, but they feel fine and they're ready to have their therapy session. So it enables people to be more consistent, I think, with their therapy, or at least that's what I've seen, that flexibility and convenience factor. And also, it doesn't take half of your whole day. You can easily squeeze it in because there's no commute on either end. So it's a big,
And I think in our culture
benefit
now that values hustling, the faster you're hustling, the better you're doing, kind of a culture that we're living in, of when do I take time to slow down and ask myself the questions or process or think? Self-care can be really hard because when do we fit that in? And so the more convenient counseling is, the more likely I'm going to be able to be consistent. I love that example.
And you've got people on the West Coast who are 3 hours behind you. So if there's someone hustling at work all day and they're like, I don't have time for therapy, the soonest I could do it is 7 p.m. Works for me. It's only 4 p.m. here. So, we have
Right.
we have all types of, therapists working. We have some therapists, I think, that work weekends. I don't work weekends, but I know some therapists work weekends. So that hustle culture made me think of that, between all the therapists in the practice, whatever your schedule is, there's someone that can work with you.
Yeah, I was going to say that's spot on. Like, I'll have a client session in the afternoon, and maybe it's your lunch break or something like that, or like before your meetings or what have you. And I really love to kind of, okay, let's just ground, recenter, do some deep breathing before we set in and really kind of see what's going on with these sort of things. It is really nice because you can shuffle it in whenever you need to, for sure, and do the work you need to in your cozies. Who doesn't want to be in their cozies while they're in counseling? After you're crying and all the snot and everything, you're not like walking out of the building. You're like, okay, where's my heating pad and my cup of tea, please?
Also, I think access to rural communities that wouldn't have great providers otherwise. Maybe there's only one or two counselors in that local small community, and you know them, and they know you because it's such a small town.
Yeah.
Where you could branch out and you could find someone. We serve the whole state of Georgia, Florida, and California. And so if you're in any rural community in any of those states, we can see you online. And so that access point too, because I think one of the big pushes that at least the marketing campaigns are doing for big box counseling places is let's increase accessibility. The accessibility is there with quality practices. We don't need 40, 50 client practitioners to make the accessibility there. We don't have a counselor shortage. There are plenty of counselors out there to choose from, and they're anywhere in your state. You have access to that.
I think it kind of goes back to maybe what I had sprinkled in there in the beginning of talking. I can only speak for myself, but personally for me as a counselor, I'm not commuting and I'm not having to do all the extra, overhead. I can kind of get some self-care in. I really love pottery and like my walks and all my things, so I can sprinkle that into my day to where I'm not like totally in the office, head down, one client after another. I can take a break between sessions and like restore, do what I need to do a little meditation, whatnot, and then kind of tune back in, which again kind of echoes what we were talking about earlier with like burnout and not kind of being on that train and having like good mental health, because you want your counselor to have good mental health as well. And that kind of parallels what Erica and Chrissy were saying, or what you were both saying earlier, where you're getting your own help as well. It's cool if your counselor is also seeing a therapist or a couples therapist. By doing online counseling, you can really be able to do the good hard work, be at home, be comfortable, have a counselor who's well rested, and have the same results.
The first client we see of the day gets almost the best version of us because we're the most refreshed. If your counselor is able to take time between sessions like you're describing, it's like every session I'm able to offer that same refreshed, grounded, I'm fully present with you. I'm not caught up with what the last person shared with me. I'm not caught up with just how exhausted I am or how I haven't eaten in a few hours. I'm fully with you. And that's what every client deserves in their experience as counseling. And if you haven't had that experience, if you had an experience where they were moving behind you, if you didn't get the same counselor every time, if the counselor just dropped off the face of the earth and you didn't even know what happened and they missed a few of your sessions, if you've had any of these really bad experiences, give it a try with a counselor whose values are that of, I want to provide that kind of quality every session, every time. And I would suggest starting with small practices that are very clear on their website what their values are, that can offer a consult, that you don't have to fill something out online, that you can just call and connect and hear the voice of a counselor right on the other side of the phone. Because there's a lot in JCAC, we're north of Atlanta, but there's a lot of really great practices in Atlanta, south of Atlanta and Florida. I'm sure starting local, starting with a practice that has heart, that has values, that has, that it looks like a great place to work, even because then you're going to get consistency of care of counselors who love working there.
I have to praise you, Erica, and I just have to. I love working at JCAC. I love working with Lindsay. I love working for Erica. I love working with all the therapists there. And I don't know about most people. Well, I don't think that that's an experience that most people have with their jobs. And I'm of a certain age. I've worked at different places over the years. And so I really value having a positive work environment. And that is really the main thing that I was excited about to work at JCAC, because Erica is very intentional about creating and fostering a positive, supportive culture for us. So specifically, so our cups are filled so we can help you, the client, but not every practice is like that. And so that was something really unique and special about JCAC that I have not encountered before. And so it was really, and it works, right? And so when you feel that level of care from the people that you work for and with, it just fills your cup and it gives that energy and that self-care to then provide excellent care to your clients. So it's a fantastic place to work. On top of loving counseling in general, we love where we work, and not everybody is able to say that. And so that's just, and I know Lindsay, I mean, I know you
I
feel
want
the
to
same
second
way.
that.
I
Shout
know, because
out,
everybody loves
Erica.
it.
You're the best. Seriously. I worked for Erica for a little while there, for JCAC for a while. And then I did my own private practice for a bit. And then I came back. Honestly, I love Erica and how she does things, that I came back to the same practice. And it's because of all the things you just said. Like, I just feel her heart. And it's really cool meeting all the like different counselors that she's brought in or whatnot, because I start to connect with all these people. And it's like, wow, how did she manage to find all these awesome people and bring them in together? Like, there's so many cool things that I can second you on that for sure. So much that I came back, and the camaraderie, I think that's a big piece of why I came back to JCAC, is like, when you're just solo in practice, it can feel a little lonely there. And so you want to connect with your peers and be able to cut up a little bit and be on the same wavelength of like, yeah, we're in this together. We're in it to help people. And that community is so potent, even though we're online, which is really cool too. So, Erica, we got to give it to you. Seriously.
It's true. It's true. My dad used to tell me, I remember he used to say, the fish stinks from the head, referring to like a bad boss. And I just always, and so it's true.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah, he would always say that if he'd have a bad boss or whatever, the culture, he would talk about how would affect the work culture. And I always thought about that. And so here it's like the opposite. You've got this great leader who is a servant leader. I mean, Erica really puts herself, her heart, she's authentic and genuine and caring, and it just trickles down.
Yeah.
And that's why we all stay, because that's the other thing. If you want to look at if you want to see a workplace that in general, or a school or whatever, that has flags, look at the turnover ratio. I mean, if a company has a high turnover rate, whatever kind of organization it is, it's not a good sign. And we have a really high retention rate, and it's because of the culture here. So very
even
supportive.
The people who wrap up with us come back. Like Lindsay, we love that sense of community. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today, and all your kind words and your passion for making a difference in clients' lives. You know, I know you both so well now. We've worked for a while together, and it's just the heart of how you want to make a difference, the impact you want to make with your clients, and then the real change you're seeing every day. I just want to say how grateful I am to have you on the team, to have you on the podcast, so that people really can feel that heart as well. Ultimately, I think our bottom line is, does online counseling work? Yes, it does. But I think the key is the practitioner you're working with, making sure you're having that quality experience, you're feeling seen and heard, there's a safe place, it's consistent, you're seeing the same counselor over time, and they're following your lead towards your goals rather than telling you the direction you should be going or should be living. And so if you haven't had a great experience before, I would highly encourage, try again. And I know that's hard because it's sharing it all over again, opening up all over again, but you're worth the work that can happen. You're worth the empowerment, the peace. You're worth the healing, the potential healing that you could have, and the life difference you can have. I saw a couples counselor first as premarital before I married my husband, and then we continued on going because it was such a great experience. We both grew as individuals, and then we grew together. And we have a marriage. I have a secure base. We have a foundation that is just, I look back on that with such gratitude of that counselor who guided us in such a beautiful way to have the strong marriage. Then the difference we're able to give our children because of that, the life goals we share together, it's beautiful. And so being able to have that, I know where I'm going. I know why I'm going there. And I feel secure in who I am and who I'm with. It's just a beautiful thing, and you're worth that.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. It was really nice just to go over this stuff and kind of talk about what it is that we do and how we do it, that sort of thing. I hope we can do more podcasts in the future. This is great.
Yeah.
It was awesome. This is my first podcast, so hopefully be a little less nervous next time, but it was really fun. And hopefully whoever's watching, we were able to give them some good information, food for thought. And so I'll say to whoever's watching, like, if you are considering therapy, maybe you had a bad experience in the past, we're happy to help you. I always say, if I talk to a potential client, if I can't help you, I want you to find the person who can. And so to your point earlier, like, maybe it's, whatever, psychiatry, psychologist, maybe it's maybe it's detox, who knows? But if you don't know where to start, you can call us and we can help you figure out where to start.
Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today. And if you want to see more podcasts like this, you can check out our YouTube channel or our podcast on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast platform to see the different topics we've addressed. And if you would like to see us cover a mental health topic, please put that in the comments. We would love to hear from you because we really want to make this interactive with the community and answering the real things, real questions, and addressing the real issues that everyday people in our community are experiencing. So thank you, guys.